So I don't know if you've seen some TikTokers talking about some very popular TikTokers. She has great hair and a wonderful figure. And she's going to be talking about why is gas so expensive. I don't know if you've heard
Why
that.
is gas so expensive, and why is the United States inflation rate at a 4-time decade high?
And how the fuck would she know? Well, guess what? Because the White House told her. She's one of those TikTokers who got briefed by the White House on Ukraine. The White House on Thursday briefed around 30 social media creators covering Russia's invasion of Ukraine, according to multiple media reports. The news comes as users around the world, especially the teenagers and young adults of Gen Z, turn to TikTok to get updates from people on the ground in Ukraine amid war with Russia. The app has played a key role in bringing news and current events to its users. The TikTok creators were briefed on the strategic goals in the region, while National Security Council staffers and Psaki answered questions on distributing aid to Ukrainians working with NATO and how the United States would react to a Russian use of nuclear weapons. According to a recording of the meeting obtained by the Post, the White House Director of Digital Strategy, Rob Flaherty, said that the Biden administration recognizes, quote, this is a critically important avenue in the way the American public is finding out about the latest. And they wanted to make sure that the influencers had the latest information from an authoritative source. Ukrainian-American TikTok creator Aaron Parnas, who has 1.2 million followers on TikTok, tweeted on Friday that, quote, I still cannot believe how blessed I am to have had the opportunity to attend a White House briefing yesterday to be armed with accurate information on how America is helping Ukraine and our European allies. He is blessed to have the opportunity to get propaganda directly from the White House. What a thrill. Parnas, who is the son of Rudy Giuliani's former associate, Lev Parnas, told CNN that the White House allowed influencers to ask the administration officials questions about what people viewing our platforms cared about. Jury finds former Giuliani associate Lev Parnas guilty of violating U.S. finance law. Parnas was arrested. I don't care about that. The White House briefing also comes as TikTok influencers in Russia are reportedly being paid to share videos that promote the Putin government's narrative surrounding the invasion. So we're both doing it. Isn't that nice? And so here's what she has to say about gas prices. You ready? Here we go.
Why is gas so expensive, and why is the United States inflation rate at a 4-time decade high? I had the opportunity to ask the White House why gas down the street is $7, and here's what they said. The obvious reason: we are getting out of a 2-year pandemic. When use goes up, price goes up.
That's what they said. It's obvious. We're getting out of a pandemic. When use goes up, the price goes up. It was always going to be $7 a gallon anyway, because now people are using it.
We got out of the pandemic, just ended with the sanctioning of Russia.
Yeah.
Is that...
Here we go. So that's one reason. Here's another reason.
But the call was predominantly about Ukraine and Russia, so how does that relate? Russia is one of the top 3 producers of oil, and it is actually their #1 revenue source. Now, with Putin starting this horrific fight between Ukraine and Russia, nobody wants to work with him and do international trade. So
that's not true. Looks like Saudi Arabia, China are gung-ho. Here we go.
People being scared of war and limited resources, prices are bound to go up as well. For the people who can't pay $7 for a gallon of gas, there's an app called Gas Buddy that shows you the cheapest gas near you, as well as a link in my bio to donate to the misplaced refugees of Ukraine.
There you go. She's going to tell you what the truth is because the White House told her. You can't make it up. You want to see another one? Here's another one.
So I just got off of a Zoom call with the White House about the situation in Ukraine. A number of other content creators in social media and myself were invited to this event, which was on background, meaning that we couldn't record or take pictures, but we can discuss what we learned from it.
So unfortunately, there continues to be a massive amount of Russian misinformation on TikTok.
Oh,
thank you.
Oh, man, those Russians. They're all liars. Unlike us in the United States, we would never lie.
So I need to make a few things clear again. President Zelensky remains safe in Kiev, Ukraine. There is absolutely no evidence to corroborate the Russian government's claim that the United States is producing biological weapons in Ukraine. And Ukraine is not bombing its own citizens or committing genocide.
So he knows that. And how does he know that? Because the government of the United States told him personally. That's how he knows this.
So wait, so he's recognizing the independence of Donetsk.
Yes, because
because the Ukrainian government bombed the shit out of them 2 days ago, killed 20 people in the center of the city. So they're not Ukrainians, according to this guy.
So the whole area called the Donbass, which is the part of the Ukraine that people wanted to separate from the Ukrainian government, which was an overthrown government, right?
Yeah.
And Ukraine has been shelling them for 8 straight years. So what that guy just said is, I don't know, is 1,000%? Is that a real number? If that's a real number, then he's 1,000% wrong. And he's spreading misinformation. Not only misinformation, he's spreading propaganda and disinformation. And it's pro-war disinformation propaganda. That's what that guy's doing.
The Russian government is the only one bombing civilians. Please make sure to call out misinformation on this app when you see it. Because unfortunately, the Russian government is paying TikTokers to create content for it. And that needs to be stopped immediately.
Russia has bombed a building with an experimental nuclear reactor in it at the Kharkiv Institute of Physics and Technology in Ukraine's second biggest city on the eastern border of the country. There's no reason to freak out. We would know by now if there'd been a nuclear explosion.
Oh my
This
God.
just shows how far Russia is willing to go, or alternatively, how careless they are with their bombs.
According to them, one reason that this crisis is specifically notable is because of the size of the invasion, which is the largest since World War II. Second, they acknowledge that this coverage imbalance exists for crises throughout the world and encourage us as content creators to use our platforms to highlight different issues as they arise, especially when mainstream media fails to do so. Third, they said that just because something isn't getting mainstream coverage in media doesn't mean that the United States isn't giving aid, whether that be monetary, humanitarian, or military aid to other issues throughout the globe. And last, they said that they hope that this crisis at least raises the public consciousness around geopolitical issues throughout the world, and that even though Americans may not be proud of other things the United States has done globally, that they hope that we can look back on this moment and see how the United States rallied the West to stand up against Russia and be proud of that. And once again, that's what they said.
At least he put that in there. At least he put that in there at the end. Once again, that's what they said. Okay, so at least he did that. So good for him at least. Now you should go watch, that guy should go watch this show and then do another TikTok video. Hey, it turns out what they said was all bullshit because I just watched Jimmy and Max tell me. TikTok, Joe Biden slammed for using influencers to blame rising gas prices, inflation on Russia. Here's the White House told the TikTok influencers who were invited on the Zoom call to blame the high gas prices on Putin. And they did it. So the White House is spreading propaganda and misinformation with which their TikTok buddies are now spreading. Don't talk to me about social media and misinformation if this doesn't piss you off and you say so publicly. So that's right. You're upset about Alex Jones? You're upset about the government doing this? I was by the way, I was skeptical about the war in Ukraine until the White House called a special war meeting with the TikTok stars. Now everything seems totally legit. So, Max, how isn't this like... So they used to have to do this clandestinely. They used to do... What was it called? COINTELPRO? And... but now they just do it right out in the open. Isn't that weird?
Well, Operation Mockingbird was when the CIA covertly paid journalists throughout the
Mockingbird.
60s and 70s, mainly to promote the war in Vietnam and other CIA activities, was uncovered by Carl Bernstein, who then became one of the biggest promoters of Russiagate.
I know.
And, you know, the FBI and that whole racket. So
what was COINTELPRO?
COINTELPRO was a dirty op waged by the mainly J. Edgar Hoover's FBI to infiltrate and disrupt left-wing and revolutionary organizing in the U.S. for example, by sending poison pen letters from one Black Panther leader to the other, instigating, turf war, that kind of stuff, dirty tricks.
But so
and now,
Mockingbird was the thing that was uncovered by the church committee, right?
Now the left does it on its own without any FBI encouragement.
Yes,
like anyone who dissents from the COVIDian regime will just be like,
yes,
castigated with, and the whole left will be divided just on its own. During the Syria dirty war, you had a whole faction of the left that was just basically echoing the State Department, but using like crude Marxist rhetoric to do so. So I don't think they even need COINTELPRO anymore, and they don't need to pay all these TikTokers, because one Department of Education after another has implemented, many children left behind programs where critical thinking is ruled out. You only graduate if you have, good test scores, and, they're incapable. I think most youth are seeing through this. And what it really reminds me of actually is what the US has done in places like Ukraine. This was how the Maidan so-called revolution of dignity began in many ways. This was how so many young people were brought out onto the central square in Kiev, was that US intelligence, through its cutouts like the National Endowment for Democracy or the Open Society Foundations, Omidyar was involved, this billionaire oligarch who's close to the Democrats, today owns The Intercept. They were setting up media hubs and media outlets to instigate regime change activity, and they would train youth, ambitious, tech savvy, sort of middle class, liberal minded youth in Kiev in social media technology, how to get the message out. And then, they would have them go on Facebook, everyone get down to Maidan, it's going down. Then they'd give them ponchos that were all the same color. And, they'd have that fist that was omnipresent in all of the color revolutions that saw former Soviet bloc states and their governments toppled and replaced with neoliberal technocratic governments. It all started with some youth getting out in the central square who had been trained in social media at the advent of the internet. So now it's all coming home in order to promote the next phase, which is, they've done the color revolutions. They've got NATO troops on Russia's borders. They've betrayed all of those youth who went out and protested. They never got the liberal future they believed they would get. Instead, they got another autocracy with corrupt oligarchs in control who just happen to love the US, who pillaged their countries. And now we're moving towards straight up conventional warfare with Russia, and the dumbest, most ambitious, most suggestible influencers are being called in to try to dupe the youth into joining along with this escalation war party and thinking and acting like neoconservatives while they dress like hipsters. I don't think it's going to work. I think this backfired, and it exposes one of the fatal flaws of this administration, which is that the president and the vice president are incapable of speaking to the American people because they're incapable of speaking. I mean, Kamala Harris, did you hear? She was on a radio show, an urban radio show recently, and she was asked to explain the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And she said, in this bizarre vocal fry that was completely put on, you got a big country trying to take out a small country. And the big country went in and ate the small country all up. And so the small countries needs us to rescue it from the big country. And that is the person that this administration sent to Poland and Romania to rally the NATO allies in this supposedly civilizational fight against Russia. This person who comes off as, who makes Sarah Palin look like next level genius. Then you got Nancy Pelosi. Do you see her in trying to explain the need to take out the Russian convoy?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how many brunch martinis she had before that, but she was talking about taking out the tanks. It seemed like she was tanked.
Yes.
I mean, the whole administration and its allies, their communication strategy is collapsed. Gas prices are going over $7. those young TikTokers, they will own nothing and be happy. Those are the people like in the World Economic Forums who will actually be happy. And what they mean, by the way, in, you know, this whole Great Reset meme everyone's sharing is not that you will live in a socialist paradise where you'll own nothing, but you'll live in a communitarian utopia. It means you're going to be renting forever, living in your parents' basement. You won't be able to afford a mortgage. You won't be able to afford gas, so you can't even power your Uber working in the gig economy. And you're just going to be a serf in an oligarchy, just like the one that we have constructed, the United States constructed, that Joe Biden presided over since the 2014 coup in Ukraine. And those are our shared values with Ukraine, by the way. Yeah. So that's the future for these young people that they're eagerly promoting. All the money that should go to their education is being sent to Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and a bunch of Pentagon contractors so they can build second homes in Vail and Aspen and get McMansions in suburban DC, getting rich off this giant arms shipment to Ukraine and the supposed great power competition with Russia and China. That's where their future is going, and they're participating in it. And the White House, where are they? The one thing we saw Biden say today was he walked off stage after refusing questions from the press, and then he got pulled in by a reporter. And the one thing he said was disastrous. He said, I think he's a war criminal. What does that mean? Well, many people watching, maybe you think Putin's a war criminal. Maybe he is. What we need right now is an off-ramp so that Russia can de-escalate. We should be de-escalating. And what Biden did is obstruct negotiations there. He upped the ante, as he did during the campaign when he said he looked into Putin's face and called him a thug. He just thinks he's on the campaign trail puffing out his chest before a bunch of voters, but this is serious stuff. And all they want to do is escalate. So we're edging closer and closer to conventional war. And the White House is speaking to the public through people with the collective IQ of a grapefruit.
Max Blumenthal, thanks for being with us. Everybody check out Max Blumenthal's work at thegrayzone.com. Thank you very much for being here, Max.
Thanks a lot, Jimmy.
Okay,
Keep doing what you're doing.
You too. We're doing our live stand-up tour. We're going to Houston. We're going to Dallas. We're going to Los Angeles, Orlando, Tampa, Columbus, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Des Moines, Omaha, Kansas City, and more. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for all the tickets and become a premium member. You get all our bonus stuff.